This episode is brought to you by Zarzar Law. I'm investigative journalist Molly Barrows. For years, I've covered the stories that made headlines in Northwest Florida and all along the Gulf Coast. Murders, missing persons, and mysteries of all kinds. These cases are far from over for many victims because the full story has yet to surface. Join me for Gulf Coast Confidential, where I dive into the saltier side of the South and expose the lies, greed, and corruption that often weighs down the truth. It's time to turn the tide and get a shot at justice. Hey y'all, I'm Molly.
Hi, I'm Pam.
And welcome to the Gulf Coast Confidential podcast. We would love it if you would please like and subscribe, and we'd also love to hear from you. Leave a comment or a suggestion about a case, because there's always somewhat the Feezy case brewing or bubbling up here in Northwest Florida and beyond. Today's episode is called Don't Call the Cops for Kendy Howard, Suicide or Murder by Ex-Trooper Husband. So Kendy Howard was found dead in her bathtub. While dispatched as a suicide, clues at the scene to the folks at Kootenai County authorities seem suspicious. So this is a case that has been bantied about and discussed, and we know how it ends. And if you haven't heard it before, we don't want to give it all away right at the top. But what a sad situation. This couple had been married 26 years. Things were starting to get a little rocky. Kendy was thinking maybe she wanted a divorce, and her husband, longtime husband, former ex-trooper, was not too happy about that.
No, and he was an ex-Marine also, or a Marine. Never ex, I don't reckon. He was a Marine. He was an ex-trooper. He had a hot temper. He was about 6 or 7 years older than her. And when they married, she had a daughter named Brooke. So when she was young, she probably liked some of that security and that safety and protection and stuff. But at the time we're talking about now, he had just about been team too much. You know, anything, his money was his, her money was his. He didn't like to go anywhere. He didn't want to spend money. And Kendy was this wholesome, outdoorsy girl. She liked being outside. She liked rodeo. I was thinking about you when
I like rodeo. I don't blame her.
You started liking rodeo. And she liked being outside with the horses and, you know, motorcycles and stuff like that. So she stayed fit, you know, and she just was having the best time of her life. She'd had an affair, a little affair earlier. We'll get to that later, but she was not happy.
Right. So they'd been married since 1994. And then I guess by 2021, he was an Idaho State Trooper. That's interesting. Working in the Alaska oil fields for 3 weeks at a time. So he was gone a lot. You can see why if there were problems in the marriage, that would provide an opportunity for unhappy people to do something that makes them happy, right? Yeah.
Well, when he was a trooper, the state trooper there, Kendy had an affair with their neighbor, and
he was close. I've actually heard of that happening with other couples. Yeah,
like across the street type of thing.
Right, right. Well, you see it every day, I guess. Some people are just like, well, you know,
I said you weren't happy.
I wanted a cup of sugar and got more than I asked for, apparently.
So that happened. Okay, I don't know if any sugar was involved in there, but that maybe. Anyway, he found out. Okay, so then he goes over there and in his like authoritative way, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to blow your brains out. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff. To the neighbor? Yeah. And the neighbor was his friend, too, so Kendy didn't do her best thinking on that either. But so that happened. He ends up getting put in jail for 4 months and catches a charge or two. So he can't be a trooper anymore. They allow him to resign. So a lot of people are upset when if we say ex-trooper, they say, he's not an ex-trooper, he got thrown out, or he wasn't supposed to resign, or whatever. Anyway, he's not one anymore. So he had to have a job. So I think it was Kendy's brother got him a job at the Alaska pipelines. So he was gone 3 weeks at a time, back 3 weeks at a time. So Kendy has another affair.
Oh, wow. And so he found out about that one, too?
Sort of. Not entirely. That's where we'll go through to the end on that one.
Okay.
His name's Daniel, and this is Dan, her husband.
Okay. So by late January of 2021, it's about a week before she dies. Apparently, she picks up the phone to call Dan Howard up from the airport, and I guess that's when she told him she wanted a divorce.
Well, she's picking Dan up at the airport, picks him up there, and decides, I'm going to tell him I'm tired of waiting. And so they get into a big argument. And she says, I want a divorce. Well, he said, you ask for one some days and some days you don't. So she had told him that. And then when she was at home, she had dialed her boyfriend, Daniel, to let him listen in on their argument. And so the night before this, she had woken up and he had been standing over her with black gloves, a pillow, and the black gloves and black clothes, all black. And he was over her. And some people say straddled, but some people just say over. So I don't know which way that was. But anyway, she said, I thought he was going to kill me. So that was the day before.
So she's telling friends, I've told Dan I want a divorce. He's not too happy about it. He's standing over me in this threatening manner. She doesn't want to leave, doesn't want to get out of the house.
Well, she thought, because he'd always say, I'm sorry, And so she thought, surely he's not dumb enough to do that again.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit like denial. It's interesting when you said that his reaction to her was, well, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. That gave me like a little knot of tension in my stomach.
Really?
Yeah. It's so interesting because I thought, gosh, it's hard enough to get to the point where you tell somebody, this isn't working out, I want to be in this anymore. And when they throw something like that at you, there's maybe it's some personal issues of my own, but my first thought is, well, I really do mean it. Don't make me keep having to say it over and over and over again. This is already hard enough. Why are you doing this?
Right.
But that seems like a very controlling person to me.
Well, that's what he was. He was very controlling. He didn't like her deciding anything. Well, see, when she had got on the phone and had her boyfriend listening in, he knew it was getting hot, but he didn't call for a welfare check. He called her mother and daddy and told them to call for a welfare check.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's the night of February 2nd, 2021. It's a little before 11 p.m. and Dan Howard calls 911. And according to the call, he's screaming that she had shot herself. She's in the bathtub, dead. And so begins the mystery because the call was dispatched as a suicide.
And he's outside and he's crying and he's gagging, but no vomit. They said, that's not my words, theirs. No tears. And it's like that kind of like, no. I mean, you can hear it on there. That's how he's doing.
He's not community theater.
No, he's not.
ex-trooper,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. He's walking around doing all that and goes, she shot herself. I was downstairs and watching TV and I heard some thud or something. Now keep in mind, this was a Marine, a trooper. And so, and the way their house was, they had all their vents open because he was so cheap. He just wanted one heating element to take care of all the house there. So he said he could hear up there, but he didn't get up to go see what happened.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and my apologies to the people of Kootenai. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but it's
Kootenai. It's Kootenai or Kootenai is how I've heard them say it.
Okay, but this is the county that this happened in, and the sheriff's deputies there in Idaho in that particular county, they were saying that one of the first officers on the scene described what you were talking about, this tearless crying, this vomitless gagging, this whatever. But then they go upstairs, and that's where she was found dead, naked in the bathtub with a gunshot wound to her head, and the gun is like in the bathtub underneath, submerged in the water.
Right. And she's
just seems weird.
It is. And there wasn't a lot of blood in the water. Her purse and her phone are there. There's no towel. There's no robe. There's no anything there for her. If you're going to take a bath, you got to have something dry off and have a robe or something. And then the bath mat is very, very wet. So that is the scene up there, but also downstairs when they're talking to him, they hear the dryer running, and they're like, why's the dryer running at midnight over here? So one of the smart detectives goes over there and looks and goes, there's 6 minutes left on the dryer. So he gets, and he figures out through the manufacturer, how long is the cycle for this here? And he went there and then he said, when was the 911 call? So 1 minute before the 911 call is when the dryer started.
Wow, that's great.
That's smart.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And so they had got upstairs, she had a little go bag packed downstairs, a Victoria's Secret.
That's crazy in and of itself. Like, honestly, if it turns out, which we know how it turns out, but like if you're trying to cover your tracks, the very least he should have done was do something with that bag.
He was dummy. He missed it. And it had her toiletries in it and some clothes, like to stay gone for a couple of days. And it was right at the end of the stairs there. Well, so they're talking to him downstairs, and he calls his stepdaughter, Brooke, and says, basically, your mom's dead. And Brooke is losing her mind, screaming at him, accusing him of killing her.
She knows. How many times have we seen that in case after case
Oh,
after
yeah,
case?
yeah. But see, we've never seen these kind of detectives that are just regular guys. So this guy, detective's over here, and he goes, why is she screaming so loud at you? And why does she think you killed Kendy, Dan? I mean, he just straight up asked him and about the dryer and this, that.
Well, because it was towels and bath mats that were in the dryer.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, buddy.
Yeah. And there were some behind the door that were a little bit wet. But when they were upstairs, they looked, like I said, there was hardly any blood in the water. And her jaw had been broken. She had on her, right up here, her decollage or whatever you call that, was real bruised, and on her like mid-waist and her arms, a lot of bruises on there and lacerations. And what had happened, the blood from her mouth, excuse me for this, was dripping up instead of down. And then there was, if you got shot in the mouth, there'd be so much blood in the tub. So what they think is that he had beaten her up. The 7 months before, he had found out she had some credit cards that she hid.
Good Lord, he's just a monster. I mean, aside from killing her, like, I'm going to control everything. I'm going to control the heat in the house, and your money is my money too, and you can't, I'm going to suck all the joy out of it. As long as you're unhappy and under my thumb and joyless, then you can do what you want.
Right. And he didn't she had her hair, highlights in it and stuff, and it was really cute. I was looking at it going, that's perfect. I like that. And then she got her nails done occasionally, and she had a little piercing right here on her nose. She was trying to be happy, so she wasn't suicidal. She was trying to live her best life. He had called her fat and chubby and stupid and a hoe and all kind of stuff. And so
I can't imagine why she wanted to leave him.
I know, right?
Wow, what a real gem he is.
Yeah. So
I'm surprised it wasn't more than the neighbor and the next boyfriend, really.
Well, that's all we know about. But, she had the cuts and bruises from that, and she had shown the picture to her friend. Just not a whole lot of talking, but showed her. And so she got that. So he, basically what they think is that he beat her up that night and that he put her in the tub because she was scrunched into the tub, her feet against it there. And she had a shot in her mouth. They said that if you shoot yourself in the mouth, it's usually up. The shot was down, and it went straight through her tongue and lodged in her vertebra.
Oh, no.
So they say that he had killed her before she was in the tub. He shot her in the tub because, see, if she was alive in the tub, the blood from her heart and all that would just be gushing.
Yes.
And your tongue has a whole lot of blood vessels.
Yes. I was just thinking, I remember, being in middle school, and during recess one time, one of my fellow students was jumping up to put a basketball in the hoop, and he fell, and he landed on his head, and it knocked him out for a minute. We're all like, ah! And he started to have a little bit of blood come out of his ear. And my coach, my gym teacher, she was like, everybody back up, give him some space. And he came to fairly short time later. And we're all like, why is he bleeding out of his ear? Oh my God. And she was like, well, head injuries, and he was taken to the doctor, and turned out everything was fine. But she's like, heads bleed. She's like, there's so much blood, whether you accidentally bite your tongue, or if you get a cut on the cheek, or if there's some kind of an injury, whether it's violent crime or an accident, that it's just so much blood because, it's just where your brain is, and your body's always taking blood up there. So I can see why they would certainly be suspicious with that much level of violence, a broken jaw, bruises and cuts, but they couldn't make the case. So it seemed like even though they were suspicious, they just didn't have what they needed to pin it on him at the time.
Well, there was a medical examiner, and he was near retirement, and he just was gaffing a bunch of cases off and stuff. So he just marked it undetermined.
Oh my gosh. So apparently, I guess it took, 2 years for prosecutors to build their case. And finally, in July of 2023, he was arrested. Dan Howard was charged with Kendy Howard's murder. And then the trial happened in 2024. So now we're almost to this present day and age. And that's when his trial began. So how did that go? I guess the prosecution's basically claiming that he put her in some kind of a hold.
Carotid hold there. And that's how he got her to where he could just beat her up and then put her in the tub and everything. But also people were saying, his put in the tub. When they went up there, they're like, no, this isn't right, because he called them for the suicide. He didn't even try to cover her up or anything, have any modesty. So they're getting more and more suspicious of him. The days before, he had talked to Kendy's brother. And so he had kind of verified that she was having an affair, and that's what lit him up on that night. But see, Dan, after she was killed, he didn't even go to the funeral. He called in and paid for it, but he didn't go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's not suspicious at all.
No.
Well, hold that thought.
Okay.
We do want to take a moment and thank our advertiser, Joe Zarzar of Zarzar Law, for being a supporter of Gulf Coast Confidential. If you need someone to help guide you through something unexpected that's happened to you, if you've been hurt through no fault of your own, Joe Zarzar is the guy that will take on the big bad guys on your behalf. Because so many times people feel like, what do I do in this situation? I've tripped and I've fallen, or somebody hit me and I need to talk to my insurance company, but I feel like I'm getting the runaround. I'm not getting all the answers that I need. This is debilitating. It's affected my ability to work or my quality of life for whatever reason. You start with a phone call and give Zarzar Law a call, and they will fight for you and make sure that your voice is heard in the event that you have been injured and you're looking for answers. And they'll evaluate your case and advise you on next steps. So we would certainly encourage you. We like Joe Zarzar here on this show.
Zarzar.
We certainly do. We love him and cover a lot of his cases too, because he is not afraid to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. And so we appreciate his support of Gulf Coast Confidential, and we hope that you never need a personal injury attorney, but if you do, he's a good one to call.
He's the one.
He is. All right. Well, moving back on to the Kendy Howard murder trial, and her husband is on trial. Former state trooper decided that he wasn't even going to show up at the funeral.
Yeah, he's not going to show up there. He just did what he wanted to. And he they kind of liked them as a couple because Kendy kind of carried the load for them.
She was the social butterfly.
Yeah, and she was pretty, and a little fitness and dancing and pretty smile. And he basically, when he is brought in to court, he's just out footloose and fancy free for a while. He's got a little ankle monitor on. Well, the court goes and they get to a long weekend, and he just decides he's going to go off to, I think, the Spokane airport. He's on the run.
Oh, wow. So they think he was literally trying to get out of town.
But what he said, that's what he said, no. A friend of mine needed to turn in a rental car, and I was just helping him.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. He's not a good murderer. He's not a good liar. But he sure is a good asshole, pardon my French.
Oh, yeah, he's something else. He is a bad one. And so they thought that he was going to cut off the ankle monitor and just make a run for it.
Oh, wow. It just doesn't seem like he's ever using his best thinking.
No, well, he's a bully. He's a cry bully. He pushes his way around everything, and he's sitting in court. And by the time he ends up being sentenced, he's lost like 50 pounds. He knows how to, try to make the look small and stuff. Because I noticed him. I studied him when he was crying at the beginning. He just did. She did it. She did this. She did that. And see, this was his problem. The first deputy on the scene was a woman. And
I saw that. That was great.
Like, this is kind of stupid, I mean, she's like saying, this ain't right.
Right. And no woman is going to scrunch down in the bathtub and shoot herself. I mean, I hate to be like that, but it sounds like if you're going to kill yourself in the bathtub, that's likely going to be a slit your wrist kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Which is sad and awful all the way around. I don't want anybody to do anything like that, but that certainly makes no sense.
Well, that's what she said gave her that light bulb moment, was that a lady, if you loved her and if you are so, heartbroken over it, why didn't you even just at least put a towel or ask or keep the door shut or whatever, So, I mean, everything is wrong with this. I've never taken my purse into the bathroom with me, and I've never not gone into the bathroom without a towel and a robe, I mean, maybe not a robe, but a towel at least. But so all of that was wrong. Yeah. And he was just, and Brooke is still giving him hell, because she's like, he killed my mother.
Good for her. I tell you what, it is interesting to see in some of these cases. And that was his stepdaughter. So she had no real loyalty to him. But it is interesting in some of these cases where one parent's accused of another and the divided loyalties amongst siblings.
Right. And they had a son together. They had a son together. But also, Brooke had said that Dan wanted to get rid of all of Kendy's stuff. So he had a yard sale. And this upsets me, she had to go back and buy her mother's things from him.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's, if nothing else, again, you know what you've done. He's still continuing to punish her, and she's in the grave. And yet, perception wise, you think he would have the sense not to do something like that, but he does not.
No, and they said that Kendy loved those little glass chickens that are two parts, almost like a candy bowl, and she had several of them, different colors, and that meant something to Brooke, because Brooke has a child named Kinley, and she loved her grandmother, Kendy, and so she had to buy those little chickens back for her daughter there, and her Kendy's lover, Daniel Prado, I think is his name. She had already had a house she was buying elsewhere, and that's also what set Dan off.
So he just couldn't control her anymore. She was moving on. She was tired of being under his thumb and him making life miserable. And I guess he tapped into his law enforcement training to do that, pull that, carotid restraint. And then it was about 10 days of testimony, they said, and 62 witnesses. I mean, that's a long, heavy trial, but it didn't take the jurors too terribly long. I mean, they did their job, 8 hours of deliberations, and then they reached their verdict. And on March 19th, 2024, the jury found Dan Howard guilty of second-degree murder and domestic battery. And apparently, he was sentenced, in May? And the judge told him, quote, "You killed a mother, you killed a grandmother, you killed a sister. You snuffed that out because of your own pride, greed, and anger." And he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Yep, that was him. Because a lot of people had said, too, we knew Kendy didn't kill herself because she had already scheduled some plastic surgery, and she was going to the gym at 4 a.m., and she had going to buy this house over there and has her new boyfriend. She's not going to kill herself.
No, and she had her granddaughter and her daughter that she loved and finally was free of this jerk, you know?
So, I don't know. Dan Howard, he thought he could fool everybody, but he fooled nobody.
I know, and all he did was ruin his own life in the process, too. I just don't understand where the reasoning comes in, but that judge was right on. His pride, his arrogance, his greed, he decided that his wants, needs, and desires are more important than hers, and her desire and opportunity to be alive. He took it from her.
Yeah, he was a cad.
Man, that's so sad. Well, Pam, I appreciate it. Any final thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know what to say to this guy right here, because sometimes if you've got someone in your life like this, they're not going to stop until you're dead.
That's right. I know. And I feel like Kendy may have perhaps missed some warning signs, didn't realize. I mean, but when you wake up and somebody's standing over you, go ahead and err on the side of caution and get up and move out. But at the same time, you don't really expect that to happen, I imagine.
You never know.
Awesome. Well, Pam, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you. Thanks to our listeners and those watching on the Gulf Coast Confidential YouTube channel. That is it for Don't Call the Cops for Kendy Howard, Suicide or Murder by Ex-Trooper Husband. I'm your host, writer, and producer, Molly Barrows, with co-host and researcher Pam Hill. And a big thanks, as always, to our director, editor, and production engineer, James Roy. You can check out more of our episodes on Gulf Coast Confidential wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, or on the Gulf Coast Confidential YouTube channel. Just don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This episode is brought to you by Zarzar Law.